Leslie, I wanted to get your thoughts on something. Joe Rogan, right? He has a huge podcast, millions of followers and listeners. And as I argue, he has a subscription to Curiosity. He's not party affiliated, but he had this warning for the left where he talked about that these celebrations, these vile celebrations over Charlie Kirk's assassination might push America to the brink. Let's watch.
Charlie Kirk gets shot and people are celebrating. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. You want people to die that you disagree with? Like, where are we right now on the scale of 1 to Civil War? Where are we? Are we at 7? Because I thought we were at 5. I thought we were like 4 or 5. But after the Charlie Kirk thing, I'm like, oh, we might be like 7. This might be like step 7 on the way to a bona fide Civil War.
Leslie, is he right?
No. And as a broadcaster, I think it's irresponsible to even put that out there. You know, we're a great nation, and one of the things that makes us great is that we can live together with all of our different ethnicities and cultures and religions and political ideologies. There aren't just two. It isn't just left and right, as we can see from primaries, right? There's left of left and there's right of right. I want to say something about this. I live in California. Harris, we have kids similar age. I just did the college tours with my kids. Went to UC Berkeley. It's one of the UC schools. Walk freely on campus. There's no security stopping me. You know, I'm going on campus. And the reason I say that, first, I want to say that violence, and I will repeat that, violence is wrong. Violence for any reason is wrong. 2, people in this country have a First Amendment constitutional right to free speech, but not to incite violence. I don't think I agreed with anything Charlie said, but he had the right to say it. You should never, ever, ever say anything demeaning about somebody who has been assassinated, cut down in the prime of life. And in addition to that, you just don't speak ill of the dead. That's how I was raised. You don't speak ill of the dead. You know, Turning Point has a right to have, you know, their, membership and to have their meetings. But I also want to point out that University of Berkeley has 46,000 students. And on my radio show, we had a man on the ground, the man on the street, go and talk to people. And it's amazing how many students didn't even know this was going on. They didn't even know. The campus is 98 acres. It's really huge. This was happening on one end of the campus. Also, if you look at all the footage, there are some older people that were there. I find it hard to believe they were students. So I just want to say I don't want the kids at UC Berkeley to all be demonized. I don't believe that everybody there was students. Again, violence is never right. It's never the answer, regardless of your political ideology. And every campus should welcome other opinions. Like Liberty, let some atheists talk. UC Berkeley, let conservatives talk. I believe in that free speech, and I believe that's how we become more united and don't have a civil war.
It sounds similar to Columbia. In Columbia, they said a lot of these people weren't their students, but they were organized with the unsavory attitude.
What I was thinking too, right here in New York,
And that's what I wanted to focus on with you, Kaylee. So I grew up right by the campus. I went to Cal for a semester. And regardless if it's a tiny faction, the reality is that it happened and that we saw a violent attack. And then we saw, as Harmeet Dillon discussed, the essentially constructive suppression of free speech, which is unconstitutional and also criminal when you bring in bloody attacks at will. And we're not seeing that on every campus. So the reality is that there is whatever faction has defined it is alive and well, and it is frightening.
Yeah, and we cover stories like this endlessly. There's the violence we saw at UC Berkeley. There's the social studies teacher you played that said, "Bye, Charlie, what a piece of garbage. Look what happens." I mean, what an appalling thing to say. And this person is teaching students. That's not just one isolated example. We've seen examples like this across the country, and those folks belong nowhere near educating our children. And at UC Berkeley, if we could just pull back up those images, my favorite was the media. There were some in the media trying to tell us this was mostly peaceful. Wasn't mostly peaceful. There were fireworks, there was tear gas. You covered, is that peaceful? There was a bloodied face. No, that's not mostly peaceful. That was a real CNN moment for the media when they said, mostly peaceful protests as fire raged behind the reporter. That was in a different context in the summer of 2020. This was not mostly peaceful. This was very, very wrong. And what speech were they stifling? Not that it matters, because free speech doesn't characterize what you say. Everyone deserves free speech protections as long as you're not inciting violence. But the speech that they were objecting to was that of frank Turek, who was one of the two speakers, Frank Turek, a pastor, he was one of the last people with Charlie on that day, stood on the stage and said, the Bible talks about the fact that testing produces patience, patience produces character, tribulation leads to hope, and it says all things work together for the good of those that love God. So that's the hateful speech to which they were protesting. I have Frank Turek joining me Saturday to talk about that moment as people tried to stop him from speaking and stop the people outside there. And I just want to end with Bill Maher. I never thought that I'd be someone who quotes Bill Maher frequently, but I want to because he has been very good on these issues. And he said this. He said that Charlie Kirk was shot under a banner that said, prove me wrong, because he was a debater. Too many people think that the way to prove you wrong is just to eliminate you. He said that is gross. And he says, I have no use for you if you say those things. Good for Bill Maher once again for standing up for free speech. Good for you, Leslie. And I hope we hear that broadly.
Yeah. And I don't want this to go unsaid, Leslie, which is that when you said you don't think you maybe agree with anything he said, maybe you and I can sit down and listen to things he said and we'll find some common ground, because there was a lot of love in what Charlie said.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.